We're now going to consider different approaches to strategic planning. And the first of these is top-down rational planning. Now, with rational planning, we start off by analysing the external marketplace, looking at what the opportunities are out there. We then try to choose the most effective way for our company to compete. How are we best going to exploit the opportunities that we've seen in our analysis? And then it's over to implementing that strategic choice, putting it into practice. It's very formulaic and rigid and top-down, this approach. And it works best if the environment is really stable and you're a large company that has the resources to dedicate to doing all this analysis, choice and implementation. The reason it works well for a stable environment is that this is quite time consuming. It takes a while from you doing your analysis all the way through to actually taking advantage of that strategy and taking advantage of that opportunity. If the environment isn't stable, things will move on and change before you've had an opportunity to implement. And you need to be a large organisation to have the resources to be able to dedicate to planning in this way. Lexus is a really nice example that follows this approach to rational planning. Now, they've launched really successful large hybrid electric sports utility vehicle that you can see on screen. And the reason they launched it, well, they analysed the external marketplace and found that customers really still wanted a luxury vehicle, but they're starting to become a bit more environmentally conscious, and a lot of governments are regulating heavily against petrol and diesel engines, and so there's a lot of government subsidy as well, actually, for electric vehicles. So there's an opportunity for a luxury electric car. They've chosen this particular model and then they've put it into production and it's launched pretty successfully. A really nice example of top-down rational planning. Our next approach to planning is the emergent approach. And here we're analysing the external marketplace and choosing the best approach together. We're trying different things out. And then, having tried things out, we're implementing what turn out to be the best solutions. This works well if the environment is changing more rapidly, but we're a large enough organisation to have plenty of different things, different plates spinning at the same time. A lovely example for this is the clothing manufacturer and retailer Zara. What Zara does, well, at the start of each season, they don't make a decision at that point as to what's going to sell well. You know, fashion moves really fast. Who knows what the trend is going to be for that season? Is it going to be stripes or spots or whatever else? What Zara does that's really clever is they make small amounts of lots of different types of clothing. They don't decide at the start of the season that it's spots. They'll make spots, stripes and everything else in small quantity. And then they see what sells well and they scale up production of that particular line. So the analysis and choice, well, they're making some decisions up front about what things to make in small quantities, but on the implementation, well, they're waiting to see what's successful before they go about putting it into large-scale production. And fashion works really well for that because it moves quickly. Our third approach to strategy is logical incrementalism. Now, this is where you take what you do at the minute and just tweak it. You know, we're a success. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can just do what we did last year with a few slight upgrades and a few small scale changes. Bounded rationality is a bit of a problem with this. Now, what happens with logical incrementalism is that it's hard to imagine the future being very different to the past, and you get a little bit stuck in your ways. And the danger of logical incrementalism is strategic drift, that the market moves and you kind of get left behind. A really good example for this is the BlackBerry phone. BlackBerry was the leading phone amongst business people in the early to mid 2000s. And what happened at that time was that people would have a separate work phone and then a phone for leisure. You'd have your iPhone and you'd have a BlackBerry as well. And a BlackBerry was really closely controlled by companies' IT departments, locked down. It was a really safe and secure way to access your email, but you couldn't really do much else on your BlackBerry. No good for playing games or Facebook particularly or anything like that. And what BlackBerry really missed out on was that they kind of missed this trend in the industry for your phone to become both a work tool but also a tool of leisure. And they really got left behind by things like the iPhone and various Android phones. They were just making small-scale little tweaks to the design of the BlackBerry and didn't get that the market had really moved on away from them, and they were left behind. Logical incrementalism can work though, and it works if your environment is really stable, it doesn't change very much, and if you're a small organisation where you haven't really got the resources to spend on formal strategic planning, you're just getting on with running the business. The problem for BlackBerry is that the environment wasn't stable, it was moving quickly, and that's what happens in tech. Our final approach to strategy is freewheeling opportunism. And what happens here is you don't have a formal approach to strategy. You're just exploiting opportunities as they arise. It's a reactive approach to strategy. Rather than being proactive and trying to think about where the market's going to go, you're just responding to events. This works well if the environment is changing quickly and you're a small organisation. If it's changing quickly, well, you need to respond as it updates. What's the point in having a really good, big, formal plan if you know it's going to have to change as soon as events take over? And if you're a small organisation, you probably haven't got the resources to be able to deal with formal strategic planning. And also, you'll be able to turn your business quickly. You'll be able to quickly implement changes in response to the dynamic environment. A nice example for this is my dad's company. My dad is a second-hand lorry dealer. He buys and sells second-hand trucks, commercial vehicles. And he buys these vehicles at auctions. He has a team of mechanics that do them up for him, and he sells them on to whoever wants to buy the trucks. Now, a few years back, my dad had some inquiries from customers based in Africa. He hadn't formally advertised in Africa, but for however it happened, some African customers started to contact him and actually realised that there was a really big opportunity to be had out there. And he now exports most of his trucks to Africa. Now, he hadn't formally planned to start doing that, but an opportunity arose and he grabbed it with both hands. And that's what you can do if you're running a small business. You can change quickly in response to events. Let's have a look at an example question now to put this into practice. A freewheeling opportunism approach to strategic formulation would be advantageous for which one of the following types of environment? A stable environment, a complex environment, a hostile environment, a static environment that's not changing much, or a bureaucratic environment where it's large organisations. Pause the recording here and have a think about it. Let's discuss this together then. So freewheeling opportunism, remember, that's where you're taking advantage of opportunities as they arise. That's most suitable for me for a complicated environment where things are moving quickly and hard for you to kind of plan in advance for. You just have to respond to things as they arise. All of those others are red herrings. A stable environment and a static or bureaucratic environment are all kind of saying the same thing. In all of these situations, you have a stable kind of things aren't changing very much, and therefore it's worth formally planning. If things are really complicated and moving fast, then it's more relevant or more realistic for you to just take advantage of opportunities as they arise. That concludes this recording.